Malala everyone, my name is Anatola. I'm a social worker and AUT master's student. I'm currently doing my research on Hymens Virginity in the Pacific, something I'm really proud of. I'm Tongan, Māori and Pakeha, product of immigrants and Indigenous people to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and really passionate. So the white sheet ceremony basically means that the woman and man consummate their marriage in a room while the women are outside singing and cooking and the men are outside doing the gaba ceremony. I am fundamentally uncomfortable with that. I feel like what an uncomfortable position to be for a newlywed to be having sex while their mum and dad are outside. And I understand that it comes from a beautiful traditional background, but it's still in a space where if a woman doesn't bleed, she's then shamed. And the man, it doesn't matter if he's a virgin or not, because the idea is that you can't tell he's not a virgin or not. What happens when I start talking about this, or anyone who has the information starts talking about it, that the question lies now, what happens if you can't tell a woman is a virgin or not? Because you can't. You physically cannot. Just like a man. So what happens now to our traditions? Do we carry on doing something misinformed? Or do we start using that knowledge and our beautiful cultural practices and start moving together as one? Because once we do that, then we'll stop isolating and shaming other people for doing something that's actually very natural. What a weighted question. Tongans don't kill me, no, I'm joking. In my personal opinion, the white sheet is extremely problematic. And in no way am I saying that virginity is problematic or that virginity should be seen as something sacred. But the whole idea of the white sheet is the whole idea of the white sheet is to basically show how clean, how beautiful, how worthy, how deserving this young woman is to be the wife of this husband. And so basically what happens when a woman bleeds, that showcases how well her father has raised her. And when a woman doesn't bleed, that shows how her mother hasn't raised her well. And so this always comes down to the shame and the blame of a woman. So when a woman isn't a virgin, she's automatically classified unworthy or slut. I hate that word, but that's what she's called. And so that then is not only cast upon her, that also is then negatively cast upon her mother. And that shows how much women are blamed and shamed for something that's so natural. And I just get really uncomfortable with the fact that bleeding is seen as an indicator of virginity, and that when a woman isn't a virgin, she's then classified as unclean or unworthy, and stripped of her rights to be able to be autonomous as not just a woman and a Tongan woman, but as a human being. And I just feel like it's so damaging to our young people, not only for young girls, but also young boys. So this completely impacts men as well, just not in the way that it impacts women. So, the double standards. I think why double standards exist in the Pacific is because we're so big on gender roles. You know, gender roles of what women are supposed to be, gender roles on what men are supposed to be. And when there's an overlap of it, it's like so many of us are like, what's going on? And I feel like there's a double standard where boys can go out and have sex. Boys, without even, their parents not even acknowledging that they're gonna have sex, but they're gonna go out and be free to be able to do it. Whereas women are not. Women are left in their home and they're protected, and that's beautiful. But at the same time, they're then sheltered and they're not given the freedom to go out and figure it out for themselves. And I feel like there's so much beauty in our Pacific culture. There's so much strength in how we raise our kids. But the flaw is that we hold so much weight on the roles based on gender. And I feel like that does more damage than it does any good. And in no way am I saying that this only exists in the Pacific. Women are shamed and blamed across the board. Like, they're named and shamed and blamed in New Zealand from Pakeha people. They're named and shamed from people in America. Hello, Donald Trump. Like, it happens everywhere. And why I hate certain traditions that shame us is because we are then stripping young women off their sexual autonomy. And in no way am I telling a 16-year-old girl, go have sex. Go have sex with David Tancione and Viliami. Go have sex. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying for her to understand her body, for her to know what happens to her body, because she should have the right to know. And so often women are blamed for this. Women are blamed if they have sex with one guy, 5 guys, 10 guys. And in no way is it anyone's business. If I go have sex with my partner, it's not your business. And I don't know how to say that to our whaiwhi girls and our kaumatuas. I don't know how to say that in a respectful way, but the fact that I don't want anyone to tell me as an autonomous grown woman that I can't do something that you're able to freely do. And I think a lot of it is like, a lot of people I've spoken to is like, well, what happens when these young women know this information? They're going to go have sex with whoever. But it's like, men have been able to do that for centuries. So, how can we regulate it? Well, we regulate it by informing our young people. So the misconception where it lies, why I wanted to head into this research, was that these families didn't realize what the hymen really was, and that virginity really is a social construct. So people believe that if that when you're a woman and you have sex, that you lose your virginity and you bleed. Now, that scientifically is wrong. So on let's say research of 100 women are being interviewed, 50 may bleed and 50 may not. And so people believe that a hymen is like a piece of glad wrap at the entrance of the vagina. So basically there's the vagina and this is the seal. And so anything that's trying to pierce it is then gonna react, and we're gonna bleed when something's penetrating our vagina. When in actual fact, the hymen is actually in the entrance of the vagina, and it's a stretchy piece of skin. And so when you're younger, it's a lot more, when you're a baby, your hymen's a lot more plumper, and that's because you still have your mother's hormones and estrogen still in your body. And then the older you get, the more stretchier your hymen gets due to puberty, periods, and that becomes stretchier because it's getting ready for when young women do have sex. And that's our body is made for that. Our body was created for that. And in Pacific cultures, if we're going to talk about reproduction and that being something that's really important for us, well, our bodies were made to be able to do that. Just like a hymen was made to be at the entrance of a vagina and not to bleed. And so why I think this research is so important is because so many women are blamed and shamed when they don't bleed. And the thing is, bleeding isn't an indicator of virginity, and virginity is actually a social construct. So if I was to open the legs of a woman who's just had sex, and then open the legs of a man who's just had sex, I would not be able to tell if either one was a virgin or not, because a hymen is an indicator of virginity. It actually has nothing to do with virginity. And why I think I want to use a cultural lens, because I'll be using a cultural lens in my research, why I think that's so important is because once we start seeing virginity as a spiritual change, as something that we choose to change, we make an effort to do for ourselves, we'll stop seeing it as a physical change, because it actually doesn't physically change our bodies whatsoever. And the research out there, why I think as a woman of color I should be doing this research, especially with the privilege of being in a class where I can do this research, and that they're encouraging me to do so, is that everything out there right now is written by white women. It's written with a Western lens, with a Eurocentric lens. That's so damaging, because in no way does it take into account our beautiful, diverse, and rich cultural traditions and our rich cultural concepts and methodologies that have been utilized through centuries. And we have so many strengths in Pacific communities where we can start unpacking this using our own cultural practices. And I feel like once we realize that bleeding isn't an indicator of virginity, we'll start actually having a courageous conversation of how we can uphold our culture at the same time as encouraging our young people to be autonomous and authentic.